Hello everyone. So in our first video, we learned pretty much how to create a simple map using vector data. Now, obviously for our course, we are interested in exploring it in such a way where we further understand how to actually get the data to work to marketing geography. So to do that, just navigate over to Lab 2 and you have a folder called Data. Download it, please, by pressing the down arrow that you've got on Actions or Data and choose Download. Now, I usually like to save my folders into the desktop, so choose the option Show Finder. You go to Show in Finder and then just drag it over to your desktop. Great. So once you've done that, you can pretty much double click on the file if you're using a Mac, otherwise extract the data if you're using a PC, and you'll find several sorts of different data there. You'll find your Starbucks data and a data.shp, which you might recognize as a data shape file, something that you've studied a little bit during your first lab that we had on the LinkedIn Learning tutorial. And we've got our starbucks.csv file where basically all our data is. This is an important data set for us to use, and we're going to double click it. It can open either with an Excel, and independently if you're using Excel or, a Mac or PC, if you double click it, it's going to open up and in your Excel version. And basically what you have here is a combination of all your Starbucks with the field ID and with their locations. And it's a pretty large data set, including over 23,000, I think, Starbucks. Many of them are not of interest of ours, as they are in different cities and throughout the world. But we are interested in having the latitude and longitude coordinates so we can convert them into points. But for now, let's only select those that are in Toronto. So go to Data on Excel and choose Filter. And when you do Filter, we can see then where actually we could try to filter by a given location. Country isn't likely it, but let's go see what we got in country. I think it's only codes, so it's not going to bring much if we choose Ontario or Canada. Yeah, so just let's close it up again because we don't know what this is about. But we can go to city for sure and then type Toronto. Great, and now we've selected actually all the Toronto Starbucks from that data set. So that was pretty easy to get. We've got our Toronto Starbucks selected. Great, let's close this up here, have our selections and copy paste. So we're going to select from the A1 column all the way down, plenty of Starbucks in Toronto, to the last one. We just copy, right click and copy, or other, in case you're using a Mac, Command C, Control C if you're using a PC. Start a new Excel spreadsheet, and first row, actually, oops, I could do it in the first row first, but let's just paste it here, because sometimes the titles are not included, sometimes they are. In this case they are, so we can just delete the first row. Important is the headers. So we got all our headers in, and these headers are important to keep. Let's just call this first field without a header ID. And as you can see, we don't really need all of these information, so we can just basically delete it. The information that we want is pretty much the latitude, longitude coordinates that we have available. And we can see that they are all Toronto. Okay, Toronto, Ontario. So we were happy with that selection. So we go there and we can start removing what we don't really require. Okay, so we've deleted the first ones. Let's keep latitude and longitude. Let's remove the other ones that we don't require as well. There you go. So we got our ID, latitude, and longitude, and let's quickly see here what we have. Each one has a unique identifier, so that's important to note. So each store will have a unique identifier. Just put this bold, and now we can save it again. File, save as. Make sure to have it saved as a CSV file. We'll save it on our desktop in a folder that you have to download it. So CSV, that's really the important part. So file format CSV, and let's call it Starbucks TO dot. Well, actually, we don't need to put dot because we're already saving it as file format at CSV. Close it up. We don't need Excel anymore. And now I've got our Starbucks CSV file. Now I've added to I've added to the final folder that as well, so you can actually use what I've already made if you do decide to do it from scratch. Well, actually, if you decide not to do it from scratch, because we're going to learn different things. Now, again, like I've mentioned in class, QGIS versions can be different ones. I'm using the long-term release, mindful that it might take some time to load. I think the latest versions are probably a bit quicker. Okay, once we've done that, we can start a new project right in the left corner. And we want to import our data. So just click on the comma there. That's the fourth button that you have. In case you don't have that button, you can actually go to Vector. Well, let's see the interface here so you can see what different options are. As many options are available, you can pretty much try to think what option it is. You can click on Data Source Manager. That would be the easiest way to access it if you wanted to. Or if you're using a Mac, you can go to Data Source Managers here. If you're using a PC, you can just go to Layer, and under Layer, so if you don't have any of those buttons configured as I do, Layer and Data Source Manager. That's where you'll be able to import any of the files that you want to your projects. So once you're there, you can go to delimited text and click on the 3 points. And under data, just go to Starbucks TO CSV. And you will automatically see that it'll import point coordinates and shows the file of longitude and the EY field of latitude to import the data. And there's also something called the coordinate systems. We're going to be working with that in a bit. For now, just let's keep it as it is. So WGS 84. We'll then do some transformations of the project to other coordinate systems. And once you've got this selected, we can pretty much click on Add. And great, now you're visualizing all your Starbucks points exactly as you wanted it. So each point corresponds to the location of a store. Isn't that awesome? Suddenly you're working on looking at all Starbucks Toronto, and look how many of them are actually located downtown Toronto. So after doing that, you can go to save the features as a separate file. Go to Export Save As Data and change it to whatever you want to change it to. I'm going to call mine Starbucks TO.shapefile. And I'll click OK. But first, you can really think about how you want to save it, and sometimes consider coordinate system as well. So in this case, you know what? We can actually save it as a coordinate system that we are going to use amply in our project, WGS 84 UTM Zone 17. So for all of our studies, we're basically going to use this one. And let's go and click OK. Awesome. We can remove the old layer or just create a new project so we don't have any inconsistencies of the coordinate systems transformation. And to that project, we can now go to add a vector layer. We can also use our layer data source manager and now choose vector. And under vector, just go to your Starbucks TO shapefile that you've just created and click add, close. There you are. And it looks a little bit different. The projection is more on the plane. So basically it's now looks as if you were looking down directly at the city of Toronto. So that will allow us to do some measurements in terms of distances, which otherwise would be different to do. So other files we want to add the data source manager vector again, and let's add the data.shape file that we have in our working directory. It's an SVG shape file. Click open, add. And there you go. That's the transformation I was talking about. For now, let's accept it as it is. The source of the file is N8083, so it's a different protection. And we want it to UTM zone 17N. The thing is that many files come with different protections, and one of the bigger concerns is to make sure that we have for all our layers a similar protection. And that's pretty much the entire Greater Toronto area, but we're literally only interested in looking at the city of Toronto. So let's zoom. Let's actually export first so that we can have it as a 17N UTM file. So now we change the coordinate system to UTM zone 17N as well. Remember that all our projections should be consistent. We can remove that layer. Okay, let's remove it. And now both our files have the same coordinate system, which is great. Let's put one over the other. And let's try to do the selection only for the city of Toronto, because so far what we're looking at is the concentration of Starbucks over the city. So we'll see that downtown Toronto, you certainly have more Starbucks than outside. And we're not actually have any points for the Greater Toronto area. So to do that, there are several different ways of actually selecting the boundary, but in this case, we will see, and if you look at the data, if we had some code that actually was specific to Toronto, we could sort of do a selection by an attribute table. So we could say, we can't select this UID instead, but this is not really the case. So what we have to do is pretty much think of a different way. But we do know that we have very interesting variables that we can study based on looking at the open attribute at the attribute table. So our advantage is that Toronto has a really defined boundary, so you can press the shift key as you go along and just do the selection of the very clear and crisp boundary that we have. I think it's control key on a PC, but try it out with control or command. For us here, it's shift. So on a Mac, it's shift. So shift key. And be mindful that you're selecting the boundaries on top. It's really something you gotta look out for with some detail. And just keep drawing those rectangles to select it. Now for your convenience, I'm gonna add this file to the folder, but if you do choose to do it yourself, to do the selections, it gives you a little bit of training of getting selections done. Okay, now once I've selected it, I can go to export under right-clicking data TO, export save features as, and you know what? Let me just go here, slower, export save features as, okay? So then just type the file that you want to do. Make sure that you've got your coordinate system to 17N. And make sure that encoding save only selected features. Super important. And you'll notice an error coming up right now. Yeah. Because I want you to appreciate how important it is actually to have the directory selected where you want to save your file. So folder and directory selections is super important. So you got to save it in our data folder. So let's go here again, export features, save as, and then you choose desktop, folder data, and you call it Toronto shapefile. Make sure again that you save only the selected features. And then you've got your coordinate systems, and that's it. Good. Now I can remove pretty much this one over here. And gosh, I think I forgot one of the census tracts, but that's fine. So be mindful of the selection as well. And now let's just beautify the map a little bit. So let's try to make it more visible. First thing I'm going to click is to double click the Toronto layer and choose symbology. Again, double click on the Toronto layer, choose symbology, simple fill. And under simple fill, I have already some pre-made colors, but you can pretty much choose the color that you want. It's got a memory, so it's going to sort of memorize the different colors. We can use the color diagram to sort of select whatever color you please. Usually lighter colors are used for the base maps, being Toronto shapefile, the base map. And I'm just going to make the stroke width a bit thinner. Let's see if I'm happy with that. That works pretty good. Okay, so now I can see better the location of our points. Let's do the same thing with our Starbucks. And I want it green. I think I have like this sort of green color, so I can change the color. Play a little bit around with the colors so you get a better idea of what colors are available to you. And I think that's more or less the Starbucks green. If not, we can try to find it and actually personalize it. Let's do the point a bit bigger. And one of the things that I'm going to change is when I go to simple marker, I'm going to change the stroke style to no pen. So that allows me to have a better visualization of the map. Great. You've now done your first map. You know your locations of Toronto Starbucks. And in the next lab, you'll learn how to create decent polygons. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching.